Welcome, Legacy Warriors, to episode 15 of the Legacy Warrior podcast. I am here with my beautiful co-host, my wife, my partner in crime, Stephanie McKinley.
Hey, everybody.
And I can't wait to get into this one today. I want to ask you guys some questions to start off because I think what we're going to talk about really affects all of us. Have you ever said any of these comments to yourself? I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I'm always messing things up. Man, I'll never be able to do it. I'm a failure. So stupid. I'm too old. I'm not good looking enough. I'm fat. Nobody likes me. Nobody cares about me. Man, I just knew this was going to happen. I'll never be happy. That isn't for me. Man, I have the worst luck. No matter what I do, nothing ever goes right. We're going to talk about self-talk today. We're going to talk about the words that you say to yourself and how they will affect your mentality in your life. And by how it affects your mentality, it affects the way that you move through life. And the way that you move through life will dictate and give you the results that you're going to get. And those results can be amazing. And those results can be not so great. But what we tell ourselves in the moments when nobody's looking, when we're in the darkness, when we have some self-doubt, when we're just stressed out, really will affect every single facet of the way that we show up in life. And thus it'll affect our success, our abundance, our relationships, and our own personal growth journey along the way. I can't wait to knock this one out of the park today.
Yeah, you guys, I think, this is one of those that's like, I'm realizing more and more and more just how important this self-talk is, that our minds are so powerful, and whatever we're telling ourselves is what our reality is going to be. And there's no way around it. I mean, we're finding that it's affecting everything we do in our everyday life. It affects the people around us. Is all how we're talking to ourselves. It's really it's behind everything that we do. Um, you know, we have some examples and stories today because there's been some
Some
stuff
good
even
ones.
just recently, like really within the past 2 weeks, that I've caught myself where I'm like, oh my gosh, like why am I telling myself that, or why am I in this mood that I'm in? Like, why do I feel so either irritated or
Mm-hmm.
aggravated or angry or whatever it is? I'm really stopping and asking myself in those moments, like, why am I having this emotion? I'm starting to really build my awareness.
Mm.
And, we keep coming back to this on almost every episode, is the
Yeah.
awareness. We just have to become aware of these things. Like, that's the first step, like becoming aware that we're doing it before we can do anything else.
Well, what's crazy too, Steph, is so often, because I felt this way too. I know you have, because you and I have talked about these things. When you're in this tornado of negative emotion and you're doing this negative self-talk, you tend to feel alone. You tend to feel isolated. You think nobody's going to understand. You're fearful of saying anything because you think people are going to judge you, or hell, maybe you're judging yourself. And
Mm.
and it's so wild to me because you mentioned mindset, and I think that's such a critical, kind of under talked about, underappreciated thing. Your mindset will dictate where you go, and it doesn't really matter any aspect of your life that we're talking about. Your mindset will absolutely prove out how you think about yourself, how you think about what you're capable of doing. And most importantly, and part of that mindset is that emotional awareness. I feel like nobody needs calculus. Let's be real. you know, nobody, unless you're an engineer, you
Well,
probably don't
yeah,
really need to learn some
there
geometry
are
or
some.
trigonometry, right? But the general 80% consensus for society is we learn so many things that we never use past the point of the moment that we
Mhm.
learn it, but we just don't teach emotional awareness. And that emotional awareness is going to really dictate how we feel and how we show up every single day. It's such an underdeveloped, underappreciated, and up until recently, nobody ever talked about it. But with emotional intelligence
Mhm.
becoming more of a buzzword thing, that emotional awareness piece that comes with that emotional intelligence is critical to every single one of our lives.
Yeah, I just think it's the awareness piece that I think is so underrated. Like I I hear people talk about mindset a lot, but then a lot of us are probably, some people are probably like, you hear it and it just goes in one ear and out the other, and you're
Right.
not really thinking what that really is. I'm really starting to find for myself, it's the awareness, creating the awareness,
Hmm.
stopping myself when I'm in those places and really taking a step back and going, well, why do I feel this way? What is at
Hmm.
the root of this? Because we've mentioned this before a couple different times. Like a lot of times, like even in our relationships and
Yeah.
things, where some stupid little thing sets you off. And this is like in your relationship, this is also for yourself. Some stupid little thing will set you off. And I was going to tell a little story because I'm going to share my pet peeve, which is people not using their turn signal when
Look,
they
y'all,
drive.
Stephanie's going to talk about this, but you ain't in the car with her. She's not even driving in the passenger seat with me. And somebody doesn't use that blinker, you better stop playing.
And
If you're listening, you better use your blinker because Legacy Warrior Steph is coming.
I never really thought I was like I'm not a road rage kind of person. Or at least I never thought I was, but I'm starting to find that more and more I'm becoming that way because I think because traffic keeps increasing and
Right.
everything is more crowded and it's taking longer. And so everything's starting to like wear on me more and more. And it's like, I just get so frustrated when people don't use their turn signal. I'm like, it's the easiest, most simple thing. I mean, it's a little lever you can flick with your finger. I mean, how hard is that? But you could really save people so much aggravation and accidents by using them. And I just don't understand why it's so hard for people to use their turn signal. And I find myself like, I'll be in the car and it's so funny because now all the families just like, they just key in on it. Now they think of me every time someone doesn't do it because I get so upset about it.
I'll be pointing it out for it too. I'll be like, look, they didn't use a turn signal, babe, just to see that.
It's that
reaction.
particular thing. It just like, and it will set me off. And I get so mad because I'm just like, it's so simple. Just do it. Like, because I'm about to smash into the back of you because I think that you're like going straight, but no, you're turning, but you just don't feel like using your turn signal. Like to me, it's like laziness. So, we all have our little things, and that's like my little thing that I'm like, this just upsets me. But and we all have Walt has his thing. I'm sure he can probably share a few that get to him.
Stephanie doesn't do road rage. I used to do some serious road rage. So I was the guy that would like mean mug you as I passed you or swerve into you if you didn't try to let me in when I was getting on the freeway. Yeah, I was that guy. So I apologize if I ever did that to you.
And typically I have a lot of patience, but I don't know. I think after raising kids and all of this, I'm finding that I don't have as much patience as I used to have. And I'm really like, little things are starting to upset me. And so it's in those moments I have to stop myself and be like, okay, like, is it really that serious? Or is it really serious to me? Is there something deeper here? And that's the kind of stuff I'm just starting to like try to have an awareness of just even the things that I'm doing.
Well, okay, so let me ask you this, Steph. So in those moments, somebody doesn't use a blinker and you just bypass the self-awareness or you don't want to be self-aware, you don't want to be real with yourself in the moment. What do you feel like for you starts to happen if you just stay in that petty pissed off moment? Where does that take you throughout your day if you're not self-aware and pull yourself back out?
Well, then it starts, then it's even the people, everybody around me, like they say something to me. If they say anything that's not, I mean, it might not even be like on a normal day, it wouldn't even faze me. I wouldn't even think twice about whatever you said. But you said something to me on that day and I was already in that mood, then I'm like, I might lash out at you. I might yell at you. I might just be rude. I might, there's all these ways that you project onto other people because you're in that mood. And so, and also I'll go through the rest of the day just feeling like every little thing is irritating me.
Right.
When it wouldn't normally.
And something so petty can cascade the rest of your thoughts and cause negative self-talk. So you go from being like, you should have used your turn signal, you friggin' a-hole. You know what I mean? I almost ran into the back of you, or you literally cut me off, or you went in front of me. We could have gotten an accident, to feeling like you're never going to amount to anything in life.
I know. And it's like, how did I get there?
Right. And we know if you're listening, you know what we're talking about, because I promise you, you're not alone. I have not met one person in life who hasn't went from being pissed off somebody didn't use their turn signal to feeling like they're not good enough and they're never going to amount to anything in their life at some point. We've all done it.
Yeah, it's like it's like a the snowball effect where it's like starts out as something small and little things, just starts adding to it and adding to it. Next thing you know, you've got a freaking giant ball coming, and you're in this tornado of emotions and then like you said, the next thing you're just thinking like, I'm just not good enough for anything. And somehow you turn that on yourself. I don't know how we do that, but that's how powerful our mind is. So it's like, just think if you were to take the opposite and you were thinking something positive and you kept adding to the positive, what would that do for you?
And you could I love the snowball analogy, cracks me up, because you could let the snowball run you over down the hill.
Well, the next thing it's
because that's what happens, right? The snowball comes down the hill. You're looking at it. You start telling yourself you're not fast enough to get out of the way, and it flattens you, and the rest of your day sucks. Maybe the rest of your week, maybe the rest of your month. Maybe if you're being real with yourself, you've had this attitude for years, and you wonder why you're not getting the success. It's because your energy is bringing negativity towards you versus repelling it.
I love that you said that, because that's true. Like, we don't even realize we're just so in our head, we're so in our own mind that we don't even realize how we're talking to everyone around us, because we're just in this tornado in our mind, and then we're not paying attention to how we're treating people and realizing that we're being rude to them and then until their reaction, when they have a reaction, then you're like, and then you're still kind of like, well, you deserved it, or whatever you're thinking in your head.
Or we're just miserable ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, we're just walking around as a shell of who we can be. You know what's cool is, I think, ask yourself this question. What's better? To stand there and watch this snowball run you over because you've got this negative self-talk and these negative limiting beliefs, or for you to be self-aware, like Steph talked about, to really change that mindset, to remove yourself from these moments when you're cascading this in this negative way, and then get yourself on a positive snowball and ride that son of a gun down the hill and back up the other side and get to where you're going further and faster than you ever could, because you're challenging yourself in a different way than you ever have.
Or why don't you take that snowball and start building something with it?
Make a snowman.
Make the snowman. Make a fort. Make something out of it. Like, that's what we could be doing if we're being productive and we're being positive and we build on the positive aspects of ourselves. We could be like,
don't make snowballs and start to fight people, though. Don't do that part of the snow thing unless you're going to do it just because everybody's ready to have some fun, like when we were kids. What kills me, though, I realize for myself, and we're going to go through 4 keys to just improving self-talk that you can leverage today. We do that in every single episode. But I like to give my thoughts around and hear your thoughts too, just around why we struggle with this. And I feel like we live in such an instant gratification society that we just feel like everything should happen at the snap of a finger. The reality is profound growth and success and abundance and improving yourself and improving your relationships, they don't happen overnight. You can shift your mindset, you can change your self-talk, and you're going to begin the journey of being who you were meant to be, but it's not going to happen. And you remember the Tony Horton thing? So Steph and I did P90X back in the day. And I like to do it because
that insanity workout. Has anyone done that out there?
No.
Like,
yeah, please. That insanity workout, it was tough. But man, if it wasn't gratifying when you were done, drenched with sweat.
They were really good workouts.
Man.
Really good workouts.
And he used to say, he'd be doing the workout and he was like, Rome wasn't built in a day and neither was your body. And
that is exactly how he said
decades since we listened to that. But I remember that because that's what we need to remember.
Yeah, and those were the stupid little comments he made during a workout video, and we still remember it to this day. And we haven't done that workout in years. Yeah,
I probably need to do that workout.
But I think about that every time. Like Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was your body. And that's what I tell myself what every time I'm trying to lose weight.
Right.
I have to tell myself that because we're just thinking like right now, I'm like, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want that to happen right now. Why can't I just lose 20 pounds? Like I ate so good all day. How come I don't see the scale moving in one
Mm-hmm.
day? Because it doesn't work like that. And true weight loss, I've learned this healthy weight loss, you can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds a week and sometimes none, but
Right.
1 to 2 pounds a week is healthy weight loss. So when you look at it that way, you're not going to lose weight in any less than probably
Mm-hmm.
2 to 3 months at least.
But to me, that's the problem with the way most people think, because we do it too. So then you don't lose weight and immediately re- refer back to our programming that's been societal, programming we've done to ourselves, programming from our childhood. We say, see, I'm fat. I'm not meant to lose any weight. God, I'm not going to be like all those other people. First of all, no, you're special. You're going to be like you. But second of all, their journey is not your journey. Their metabolism isn't your journey. Their eating habits isn't your journey. Your journey is your journey. And I think
Mm-hmm.
when we start to focus on like the 20 pounds in this case, we're focusing on the 20 pounds. What we don't do is we don't focus on the journey that's going to get us there, the steps that's going to get us there, the ability to stay in gratification and be proud of yourself for eating healthy all week, even if you didn't lose that pound or 2 pounds, because maybe you're just carrying an extra water weight that day. So you can make that about anything in
Right. There's
life.
so many factors that go into it, and we don't pay attention to like he said, and really, I love the weight loss example because it's just, you just know it's a proven, like, it's a
Mm-hmm.
process, and you know that it takes consistent effort over time. And that's most things. If you
Right.
consistently do something and you have dedication and discipline and you just consistently do something over time, you will get the results. You will. It's just a matter of time. But we don't have the patience to
Mm-hmm.
wait, and we don't want to, if we don't see immediate results, we tend to give up.
It's the self-doubt that creeps in.
Mhm.
And I really feel this way about this because it's so many facets of life. Sustained consistent effort over an extended period isn't sexy.
Well,
It's not manifesting it. It's not taking a shortcut.
it's not convenient and it's not easy, and that's the kind of world we live
And
in.
that's why discipline is so key. So if you're wondering why you haven't gotten the results in whatever it is, entrepreneurship, your career, your eating right, are you real with yourself? Have you been consistent over an extended period of time? Have you been able to clap for yourself when nobody else is clapping for you, when nobody else is watching? And I bet you, if you haven't achieved your goal yet, one, you've still got some growth to do. And two, you're not being real about it. And so it's almost Easter, or just it was Easter, right? So Stephanie made the kids some Easter baskets. So we're really on this health journey, trying to lose a little bit of weight and just get fit. I don't have the desire to try to get a 6-pack. I just don't want to look like I drank a 12-pack. So just to get fit to do more hiking and to do those things that we really enjoy and travel. And so I did this the other night. So we've been doing really good, eating really good. And my daughter had these mini Cadbury eggs or truffles or whatever it was in there. And man, they're good. It's got like that creamy milk chocolate in the middle. And so I went and I had one. But am I honest enough with myself to say, man, I didn't really get exactly where I wanted to be this week, but did I consistently sustain the effort throughout the entire week? Or did I deviate?
Well, and you can't so if you did eat the piece of chocolate and then you just don't beat yourself up about it and then go, well, screw it now. I already ruined it.
Because I know
Even
I've
though
done that. Give me them
I ate good
Oreos.
all week and I ate one chocolate, like that realistically isn't going to throw you off like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a tendency in our mind to just go, oh, well, like I just ruined it. And then just not keep going,
Mm-hmm.
not keep doing the consistent effort you were doing. And that's where we go with our negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
like, instead of just nipping it in the bud and being like, okay, I need to like get out of this mood and start doing things to get yourself into a different mind space, because that's what we have to do. Um, we tend to just continue down the path and just
because
let
it's
it
easy.
snowball. Yeah.
And then we complain about not being where we want to be, even though we didn't do the work that others have been willing to do to get to where we
Right.
want to go.
That's something I was going to say is everybody you look at that's been successful in whatever it is that you're looking to do. Like if there's something you're emulating and there's somebody you want to be like,
Mm-hmm.
I bet you if you actually look closer or actually talk to that person, they'll tell you that they were doing consistent effort over time to get there, even though it may seem to you like it happened overnight.
Mm-hmm.
It never happens overnight. You know, we see these instant sensations, but really, when you get to hear their full story, a lot of them have been doing these things since they were a kid, or it's been years that they've been working on their craft behind the scenes that nobody saw.
Yeah.
And it really takes that to reach what you want to reach. I mean, it's like the old saying they say, like, anything worth doing or worth getting isn't easy. It takes hard work and effort. Anything that you do.
But doesn't this is where we're back to self-awareness again, Steph. So doesn't the self-awareness really drive the pride in the journey? If we're also goal
Mhm.
oriented and we get to our goals and we feel like that's the destination versus just a waypoint in the journey of life, we end up just really being relieved that we've attained the goal that we've achieved. And then we move on to the next goal without even appreciating the journey that got us to achieve that specific stopping point.
Mhm.
And thus we feel like we can't be happy. We start telling ourselves that we can't be happy. We start having imposter syndrome, which is crazy to me, feeling like I've seen this in the corporate space so many times. People get promoted, or people want to do a podcast, or go be an influencer on social media, or anything like that, something outside the norm and outside of their comfort zone. And they immediately tell themselves, I can't do it. I don't have what that other person has. But what you don't look at, the other person has been doing what you're trying to do, what you just set out to do. They've been doing it for a decade.
Mm.
But we look at it, we compare, which is why we did an episode on
Yes.
comparison. We compare, and because we compare, we immediately revert back to our programming and our negative self-talk. And if we don't challenge ourselves through the self-awareness that you talked about to change and flip that upside down on its head, and think about it a different way and talk to ourselves a different way and focus our energy in a different way, we're going to end up getting what we've always had. And that's a life where we struggle and we feel like happiness isn't for us, or we feel like the success isn't for us. We got to be okay when we take the first step to doing something not being great. And
Mhm.
that's okay. This whole journey I've been on the last couple of years with professional speaking and doing the things that I've done, and now podcasting with you. The difference in 3 months and 6 months and a year and the capability and capacity to do what we're doing, because we chose to show up on day one with a positive attitude, and we didn't allow our self-talk to beat us down and paralyze us with fear of even doing it in the first place. There's so much intangible growth, I guess, that happens
Mm.
that you kind of don't even realize is happening. You just naturally will get better, because nothing creates elevated success like practice. I don't care if you want to be a mathematician. I don't care if you want to be a professional athlete. I don't want to care if you want to be the number one chess player in the world, or you want to be the number one podcaster in the world. Nothing will replace practice, action, and effort. But if you let negative self-talk impede your practice and effort and action, then you're never going to have the internal freedom that we all crave.
So I'm going to tell you guys, the other day, I found myself, I try to stay away from the news a lot these days because I just felt like it's so divisive and so negative. And so I just try to not even really watch it. But then every once in a while, I'm like, oh, well, I want to know what's going on in the world. So let me tune
Mhm.
in for a minute. And I turned on the other day and I saw something political, and it just immediately triggered me into, like, just, I don't know, just feeling angry about it. Like, I'm so
Yeah.
sick of this. I'm so sick of how they are trying to divide, and it's just negative. And I really caught myself, like, it just put me in a bad mood. And
Right.
then I couldn't get myself out of that mood the rest of the day. And I didn't even really realize at first it was that. I realized it later, like, God, that's really what kind of just put me into a bad negative place.
Mm-hmm.
And my word for this year that I told myself is intention, because I'm realizing, like, all of these things, like, to get myself out of being more negative, I have to have intention of surrounding myself with more positive, because there's so much
Mm-hmm.
negative always there, that I have to be intentional about positive things in order to get in a more positive
Right.
frame of mind.
Intentional because you're reprogramming yourself.
Yes. And that's something I want to talk about too, is I'm realizing also that I feel like I've kind of been conditioned to always like to see negative a lot. I've been
Mm-hmm.
kind of programmed and conditioned to do that. And so I'm realizing it's going to take real intentionality to reprogram myself to more positive. So I've talked about this a little before, but so now what I do is I try to start my day with something positive. I start my day by reading or listening to a devotional. I start my day, looking at positive content. I'll listen to a podcast that's about working on yourself, or
Mm-hmm.
just something that's more positive. I'm listening to that. The music I listen to, I try to listen to upbeat things,
Yeah.
and, you know, even just all of it, like what you're watching, what I'm taking in on social media. Like, I've tried to create it to where my social media feed is
Mm-hmm.
all positive content. I only like things that are positive, so that's all I will see in my feed.
So make sure you're liking the Legacy Warrior podcast. Shameless plug, because then you'll see it in your feed.
Yeah. So I ignore, if I see anything negative, that kind of stuff, I will not like or comment on it, because from what I've learned, that's how the algorithm works, is whatever you like
Right.
and comment on is what you're going to see in your feed. And so I give no attention to the stuff that's negative.
Yeah.
And if there's someone being negative, I will unfollow them, because I'm not going to have that in my space. And even with the people in my life, like, I will distance myself if I feel like you're constantly negative around me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be around that, because it makes me negative. We feed off each other's energy. And so if you're constantly around someone that's always being negative, it's going to rub off on you. And that's the truth. So all of this stuff, I've learned that I've got to feed myself positive content. I've got to put that in front of myself. I have to be intentional about it. I have to read positive
Yeah.
books. Like, all of it, everything we're taking in, and there's so much always going around on around us that
Mm-hmm.
we are taking in, even subconsciously, that we don't even realize we're taking in. That, I'm telling you guys, intention is the word. Awareness is another word. Start really making yourself aware of what's around you. Start being intentional about feeding yourself the positive content, because all of that stuff really matters in your self
Mm-hmm.
talk.
Well, I think that takes us to the first key that we wanted to talk about, and that's protecting your peace. Everything you just said, ask yourself right now, you guys, am I protecting my peace?
Mm.
Am I watching things that are divisive and create a negative internal environment for me where it puts me in chaos? Do I have people in my life that always take those energy vampires that always complain, that get me to gossip with them, even though
Yes.
I don't want to gossip and I don't feel good about gossiping about somebody when I'm done? Am I living my values? Am I aligning myself with things that will protect my peace?
Mm.
That's the question we got to ask ourselves today, right now, and be really honest with ourselves. And it's funny because I love my 90s hip hop. Look, y'all, I'm 46 years old. That was my jam. I still talk with slang, all of it. I love, you know, 90s, like, not heavy metal, but if I'm lifting weights and stuff, I love that kind of like harder music. And I'll still listen to it sometimes. But we were driving, Steph and I, one of the things we do for self-care is is go for a drive and get outside in the Jeep with the top off. And it's so much fun, even,
Yes.
until we get super dirty going down desert trails. But, it's such a great time. And what we're finding is that's a great self-care thing to protect our peace. But what are we listening to while we're out there? And so if I'm listening to Eminem had a song on I Am the Way I Am, right? And he's like, I'm so sick and tired of being admired that I would just, and I'm singing it, and then I was kind of freaking angry. I was like, and I look at Steph, I said, damn, this is some angry music. It's not that I don't like it.
It is funny though, because we are having that awareness. Like we're even starting to realize, like, we've kind of gotten to where we start listening to podcasts more when we're driving around, because we're trying to put that in our mind. And like we realize, like, as we're listening to some of our playlists, we're like, God, yeah, some of this music is like really angry. Like, I can see how if you're listening to this a lot, it's gonna put you in that that place. Like,
and by the way, I still love all those music. If we're partying with friends, no joke, it's like 8, 9 o'clock p.m. And all of a sudden, some of our friends will look at me and be like, well, please do something. If we're even at some of our other friends' house, like, please do something with this music. Or we go out and there's a machine you can put some money in and it'll play music or something. I'll put some 90s hip hop on because it makes you want to kind of,
makes everybody in a better mood. Just
but
like,
if you listen to the words, dang.
But you know what? That music, because it's like, but if that makes you feel upbeat and like, and you're gonna have fun when you listen to it, then okay. And that's another thing. Music is huge for me, honestly. When in whatever emotion I'm feeling, this is one of my self-care things. One of my self-care things is when I'm in a mood, I will put on music, because no matter what, I feel like the music makes me feel better. And I will listen to music depending on my mood.
Yeah.
So like he said, if it's like I'm wanting to party and have a good time, then I want some hip hop on because I like to dance and that's what gets me into the party mood. If I'm feeling kind of just mellow that day, then I might want to just listen to some country and
some old R&B or something.
Yeah, or just some, slower music. Or when I am angry, though, sometimes when I'm angry, I want to listen to an angry song and just like let that emotion out, and just
how many people out
I'll
there
just
listening?
be singing along to it, and it just helps me get my emotion out. So for me, sometimes the music though is my self-care. It's how I help my emotions make myself feel better. So sometimes those songs are appropriate for that, and maybe it just lets you get that anger out,
like when I'm in that kind of a mood, if I'm listening to some Limp Bizkit break stuff,
or like lifting weights, like you want to listen to something that like gets you and kind of you want to be kind of angry because you're like, I lift weights harder if I listen to that. Or like I listen to DMX Stephanie, when I work out.
Thug wife over here. That's her nickname. Stephanie cracking me up because she's so nice and gentle, but then she like tries to get a mean feature. If you were watching on YouTube, you could see it. I'm listening, and her face gets all scrunched up. It's cute.
Or it's like if I need motivation, like sometimes there's like this song, like Kelly Clarkson has that song called Stronger, and sometimes it's like I listen to that and I feel stronger, and it makes me feel, puts me in that mood of like I'm gonna get something done.
But isn't that why we wear these warrior shirts all the time too? We wear the warrior shirts to just teach us that we're fighters. We're not survivors. We're not victims. We're powerful from our experiences in life. Even the hardest ones that we've been through, they've helped us grow. So think about, what are you doing to protect your peace right now? What are you putting into your mentality? Do you watch CNN or Fox? I don't care what side of the political spectrum that you're on. Do you watch that? And if it bleeds, it leads, you guys know. And by the time you're done watching that episode, you're pissed. You're frustrated. You think the US is going to hell in a handbasket. You're up there posting on, commenting on people's Facebook and their Twitter, all angry and upset. And what does that really do for you? How does that serve you? It just doesn't. So are you listening to podcasts that protect your peace? Are you listening to music that protects your peace? Are you being around people that protect your peace and elevate you? Yes. What are you doing specifically to protect your peace? I want you to get out a piece of paper today, and I want you to write down the things that allow you to protect your peace. And then I want you to go to key 2 that we're going to talk about today. And I want you to identify every single time you get in a negative headspace. Write down what it was, how you felt, what caused it. And then it's okay not to be okay. So talk about it with somebody. What's not okay is to stay in the space. I'll give you an example. So the other day, well, I know for me, when I feel tired, like I could go take a nap. When I feel tired in that kind of respect, I tend to be more negative. I might look at the podcast stats and they're not as high as I thought they would have been, or they're not growing compared to last week. And I start by being negative around that. And I'm like, oh, are we going to be able to do this? Yeah, man. Like, I just thought it could grow. Like, I don't know what else to do. Or maybe we're just not hitting the right buttons for people. And then the next thing you know, and I literally did this last week, I'm getting pissed because my mom is commenting more on my sister's Facebook posts and my nephew's Facebook posts and not mine. And then I'm just upset, which is affecting my mood. So then what happens? I'm being snippy with Steph, being snippy with people in my house just because I'm upset. So I had to actually tell Steph, hey, I just need to we need to get outside the Jeep. We need to go for a ride. I need to do something different. What tools do I have in my toolbox now
Exactly what I was
that
gonna
I can
say.
utilize in order to get me out of this headspace? But I was in the headspace because, guys, just because we talk about it doesn't mean we don't struggle with it. You're not alone in this. I was in the headspace, this negative headspace, which had this cascading effect of negativity. I just caught myself in it. And when I caught myself in it, I said, I got to get out of this space. And then I moved myself in the direction of getting out of the space and making myself uncomfortable because it was really easy to just stay in the negative space.
Yeah, I love that you said. I was going to say the same thing about the tools in your toolbox, because that's what we're trying to give you guys right now. This is the tools for your toolbox when you start getting into that negative headspace. What kind of things do you do to bring yourself out of it? And that's why I'm sharing, like, those are my go-tos. When I start to feel chaotic or tumultuous, or like I'm in this negative tornado, I do things like listen to music that helps whatever the emotion is. I will go for a walk out in nature. I will listen to a positive podcast. I will read some kind of self-help book. I will, if I am looking at social media or something, I will make myself only look at the things that are positive. But there are things that we do that, like he said, for him, it's like go for a Jeep ride, or it is go for a walk, cuddle with my dog. I mean, anything that puts me makes me happier. You have to think about those things for you. What are they? Because like for some people it is working out. For some people it's hiking. For some people it's like listening to music. Some people it's art. Some people like to go paint, or they got to get creative when they're feeling, yeah. Something, you need outlets for the emotions. So find your outlet. What is it that brings you joy or instantly puts you more in a state of peace? Those are the things that I'm huge on protecting my peace.
Yeah.
Like I'm really big on that. It's like number one to me. If I start to feel like, something is affecting my peace, I start to distance from that. And then I start trying to put myself wherever is going to put me in a happier place, because I don't want to go to that place.
Well, and you just told me that the other day. You said I was being more negative. And by the way, I think both of us you had watched news. It was like this tornado, and we weren't at each other's throat. We weren't arguing with each other. We were just both kind of being snippy. And
sometimes it is just being tired, hungry.
Yeah.
Some of those things
Sometimes
affect
I just
your
need
mood
a nap.
too.
And so Steph turns around, and I get hangry too. So, and Steph turns around and she goes, hey, I feel like you've been kind of snippy and I don't necessarily deserve it. And I said, you know what? You're right. So in that moment, she needed to say how she felt. And in a relationship, especially an intimate relationship,
That's
you got
another one.
You got to
talk about your feelings. With someone.
You got to have that emotional dialogue for that. And instead of me trying to like put on this tough, resilient facade, I said, well, here's how I'm feeling. Boom, 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 boom. And I ran down how I'm feeling, but it just kind of let me get out of that space. And I said, we need to do something to get us out of this space. And so we committed to doing that together. But if we wouldn't have been intentional, and had the self-awareness in that moment and been honest with ourselves in that moment and each other, we would have stayed in there.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need a break. Sometimes it's whatever you're working on is just got you in a place and you just need to take a break and walk away from it. A lot of times just walking away from something, you have no idea how much that will do for you. And like he said, or if you're feeling tired, take a nap, take a little power nap. If you're feeling like you can tell you're kind of hungry, like he is one that gets really hangry. So sometimes I'm like, we just need to get him something to eat. He'll be in a better mood. We just need to get
what we got to eat in here. And I found even this in corporate America, sometimes people think about it where I want you guys to think about at work right now. If work is back to 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 back, and you feel yourself start to just get frustrated and pissed, but nothing negative is necessarily happening. It's a sign of burnout. Take your freaking break. Take your lunch. The work is always going to be there. What I would go do as a form of self-care for myself, and it allowed me to connect with my people, I would go walk around and give people a fist bump. I would go walk around and just see how people are doing. I might even go down 5 flights of stairs in the building I worked in at the time and go walk outside, even in the middle of summer in Arizona, which you Arizonans know is crazy.
You'd be surprised just how much just being out in nature, just getting outside, some sunlight, like seeing greenery. You'd be surprised what that does for your mood.
And people say, like, touch a tree, touch the ground, touch the grass, like ground yourself for a minute. Just give yourself a minute and breathe. But if you don't identify the negative self-talk traps and you're not writing down how you feel and you're not acknowledging how you feel and you're not getting it out and talking about how you feel, this is why this is key number 2 and it's so important. And like Stephanie said, and then you don't know what tools in the toolbox to pull from because it changes. What works every time changes depending on your mood and what's happening. It's not always the same. You really got to do this exercise in order to get mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually more healthy so that you can continue to move forward in the day and continue to elevate your personal life potential. And that effect, we all know, the better we are, the better everything around us really is.
Like we found even just going for a drive, like sometimes for me, just going for a drive and blasting my music that's something I just love, or it's like helping my emotion, like how much that does for me. Or, you know, even as for you spiritual people like me, sometimes prayer helps me.
Yeah.
Sometimes I know there's people who like to meditate. Even me, when I get on this podcast and sometimes when I can feel like I'm feeling anxious, taking a deep breath, taking some deep breaths, it really does slow you down and just make you focus. There is power in all those things. Like, I know it sounds crazy or it sounds stupid but seriously, sometimes when you're just feeling so overwhelmed, if you just take a second and you're like, just take a breath. Yeah. That stuff really helps.
It keeps you from reacting. You guys know I'm a 20-year military guy, so I'm not about taking no damn breaths and meditating. It's not what I do. And by the way, it wasn't what I was programmed to do as a kid coming up either. But dang, the value and really letting it out will keep you from reacting negatively in so many situations. Take 3 or 4 deep breaths, hold it 3 seconds, exhale 3 seconds, hold it 3 seconds, exhale 3 seconds. And it's amazing how that something like so simplistic.
Focus on the breath instead of all the stuff that's like going in your mind. It takes your focus off of all that craziness and makes you focus on your actual being and your breath. So there's real power in these things. Like really, it's like simple things, but they really work.
Well, and I think so. Let's keep talking about more things people can do. So we talked about protecting your peace, identifying the negative self-talk traps. And I want to also talk about this. You got your goals, right? We should all have vision. We should all have goals. Like I said, don't ever consider it a destination. Just consider it a waypoint on the rest of your life, right? It continues to move you forward to self-actualization and where we all want to be our best so that we don't have regrets when our time is up. I personally struggle with this. Steph, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I personally struggle with this. I set these big, grandiose, audacious goals, and I really work to chase them down. But I just focus on the large goal. I think the value of setting micro goals allows you to be present and allows you to enjoy the journey and grow in a different way than always being hyper focused on the huge goal.
I do, because I know I get really overwhelmed sometimes when if I'm looking at something that just seems so out of reach or it's so overwhelming because there's so many pieces to it or it's just a big goal. I have to break it down into smaller stuff. Like, so what can I do every day that I'm working towards that and feeling like I'm going to be making some progress and I can feel like I've reached something? Cause I am very task oriented. I'm like, I don't like to leave anything unfinished. And it's hard for me to leave things unfinished. So I have to have things I can accomplish and be like, okay, I did that today. I accomplished something. I have to have something. So, it's like I talked about with the weight loss goal. It's like,
Yeah.
ooh, when I look at that, it's like 20 pounds. That's going to take me, that's a lot of work. It's going to take me a while. How can I stay focused on like just today? What do I need to do today? And so I've started being more intentional about like I'm making a meal plan for the week so that I will
Yeah.
stick to making dinner each night that's healthy. It's planned out ahead of time. Then I'm not scrambling at the last minute. And I'm making sure I have healthy snacks around. I focus on just getting a workout in a day
Yeah.
and just get, even if it's just a walk, I don't care. I just got to get myself moving a little bit each day. And I need to make sure I'm eating healthy every day. And I don't beat myself up over the little, if I have a piece of chocolate, oh, well, I had a piece of chocolate, get back on it. Like,
Well, one place I've seen you grow a lot, Steph, is, and I know you remember me telling you this. I said you would spend 50% of your time getting 90% complete on your goal. And you would spend 50% of your time trying to get that last 10% chasing perfection. And nothing is ever going to be perfect. Sometimes we all tend to do this. We get so caught up in the chase for perfection. We need to feel like it's perfect or 100% complete when really you've already attained your goal at the 90%.
I have worked on this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. I mean, I it's like even this podcast, I've talked about this a little bit before, but when I first got on, it's like your tendency is always to want to beat yourself up. But I really did take a step back and I even told Walt, I was like, I'm honestly really proud of myself. I'm just proud of myself that I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to be okay with that. I'm not going to be perfect on you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's going to
Yeah.
take time. The more I do this, the better at it I'm going to get. And I have to start recognizing that and realizing that because I'm finding with everything my kids have really taught me this, that it really is practice makes
Yep.
perfect. And nothing's really perfect, but practice is what gets you good at something. Without practice, like, and this is with anything, the more you practice it, the better you get.
Yeah.
And you have to have that mentality that there's nothing you're going to do and be perfect the first time or it's going to be amazing the first time. Like that's why it's your first time with
Mm-hmm.
anything, your first job, your first,
Yeah.
I mean,
Because the first podcast, let's say we did, was the goal to be perfect and phenomenal on the first podcast, or was the goal to just do the first podcast?
right.
So what happens?
Like,
We do the first
do it.
podcast, and then what was cool is you were really proud of yourself for that. We didn't go back and try to change it. We've literally never recorded another podcast except for one that froze in the middle with a guest. So we went back and we had to redo it because the audio was all off. But it would have been really easy to focus on the negative because we want to have this, top 10 global relationship podcast and not focus on the micro goal, which was just to start.
Mm-hmm.
Just to start. So what do you have? What's your vision? What are you leaning towards that you're really wanting to do? Stop focusing on the end state. Start focusing on the micro goals that are going to get you there and relish in the journey without expecting every single piece of what you want to happen. Relish in the journey, celebrate the success. The micro goals will help you get there. And guys, I'm still working on this one for real because I'm so big, audacious, goal oriented.
Yes.
And it can get very overwhelming. Then you wonder if you're doing the right thing and am I good enough? And oh, how comes people that said they were going to be there aren't really there because maybe they're struggling?
Well, that's like, even with this podcast, we had to tell ourselves, like, because we do have big audacious goals for it. Like, we do want to impact a lot of people. You know, we're
So
trying to
Spotify,
impact a
if you're
lot of
listening,
people.
we're looking for a contract.
But what
So
we had to tell ourselves is, like, you know what? It's just like the working out example. And this is why we're going to keep coming back to this, like, where you notice the small goals. We realize, like, we just have to be consistent in doing this podcast. We need to do a podcast and have one out every Tuesday. So that's our smaller goal. To get to our bigger goal is, like, we just have to show up and do it and be consistent with it. And you will have a podcast every week. And in doing that, over time, we're only going to get better and better at this. We're going to have bigger and bigger guests on. We're going to, increase our reach, build our followership. But all that is going to take time, and it happens in the small increments and things that we do every day to get there. It doesn't happen overnight. None of it does. Everything takes consistent effort over time. So don't beat yourself up about the little thing you didn't accomplish. Like, celebrate those little wins. Like, I'm happy every time I complete one of these podcasts. I feel like I accomplished something.
And that takes us to our fourth key. And that's reframing the negative self-talk. So, okay, now you have awareness, you've written them down, you're protecting your peace, you set these micro goals. You're still going to have some negative self-talk at some point. Promise you it's going to happen. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Tony Robbins, a guru of all motivational speaking. He still has these moments. Now you're going to catch yourself. Now you're going to have tools because you're doing the other 3 steps that we've talked about. Reframe your negative self-talk. My friend Christopher Rausch says this a lot. People will say, and by the way, I did this to myself. We wanted to create some videos for social media for this podcast. And I just didn't know how to do it, as my friend would say, yet. Not that I couldn't, I just didn't know how. In my mind, I kept saying, I have to do this. I have to figure this out. Not I get to, but I have to, which already put me in a negative state. Then as I'm trying to figure out, I'm struggling to figure it out. I'm watching videos and I'm trying to do this research. I'm doing all this stuff. And I said, even if we hire somebody, I still need to know how to do this. And so, like, I'm snippy and I'm getting irritated and I'm telling myself, damn, why can't I just figure this out? Stupid. I know I should be smarter than this. What I should have said is, hey, keep pushing through to figure it out. Maybe the next video will be the thing that teaches me that resonates with me mentally. I shouldn't have thought that I was stupid. I shouldn't have thought that, why can't I figure this out? No, I'm going to figure this out. So I had to catch myself and say that to myself. Oh, no, I'm about to look, if somebody else can figure this out, I could figure this damn thing out. And that's what's about to happen. I don't know how long it's going to take me to figure it out, but I'm going to keep taking consistent action in order to make this thing happen. And I was so proud of myself, you guys, when I figured this out. And those of you guys who do this kind of stuff and it's easy for you, that's amazing. I'm super happy for you. Give me a call because I need someone to do this at some point for us. But I was so happy when I figured it out because the beauty was in the struggle and pain and journey. But if I didn't reframe my negative self-talk, I might have just stopped doing it altogether and said, screw it. It ain't even worth it. Like, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. I'm not going to do it. F it. And then we don't get to impact and reach the people that we're looking to impact and reach that need the message from this podcast because I let my negative self-talk stop me from stepping into my greatness and figuring this thing out. And so if you're out there, you got to be able to flip your negative self-talk upside down on its head.
Yeah. So there was another story I was going to share from the other day where our daughter came home and she was all excited and she was telling us about how she had this idea because she does nails on the side. That's her thing. And she basically running a little business out of her dorm room in college, and that's how she makes money. That's her job. Like, she doesn't go to a job. That's her job. She started her own nail business in her dorm room.
And makes her car payment and pays insurance and has money to hang out and entertain herself.
And it's doing really well. She's a little entrepreneur. Well, she came home with this idea about, like, thinking big term, like when she finishes college and she wants to start her own she's like, I want to have a nail salon, but it will have a coffee shop on it. And so
This
she's
was her
sharing this
big
whole idea,
audacious goal
right?
that she's sharing with her mom and dad.
But okay, that day I was not in a good mood. And I don't know if this is the same day I saw
It
the
was.
political
It
thing, but
was the same couple of days.
in a bad mood from like that political thing that I saw. And
Dang
so
politics.
she's all excited and sharing this dream of hers, and I'm just being really negative, and I'm pointing out all the stuff that could go wrong and why it wouldn't work. And her reaction is actually what snapped me out. Like, it didn't snap me out of it in the moment, but I did reflect back on it.
Yeah.
And I felt like, here she is. She's trying to share this dream she's all excited about, and I'm being negative. And because I was in a bad mood that day, it was so unfair to her.
Yeah.
And I really felt bad about it. And then it's like like a week later, she's home again. And because she was home that weekend for her birthday, she came home this weekend for Easter. And we were all out, and Walt, her and I actually went to brunch. And we get talking about some of this stuff again. And I'm telling her, oh, I just really see you. I could see you. And I'm saying all these different ideas I have.
All the things that she had ideas for, that stuff was
Well, no,
big.
I really was like, there's things that I just can see her doing because she has so much potential. And then she literally said to me something like, well, where was this person the other day? And I kind of just had to laugh. But I am trying to be more aware of that and work on that, because it is in those moments. Like,
Yeah.
her reaction made me realize it's teaching me what I'm doing that I wouldn't notice otherwise. Sometimes it just
It's
takes
our blind spots.
a certain person or whatever, their reaction to show you how you're being, because you can't even, like, you're in your own head and you don't realize how you're acting towards other people. And it was one of those moments where I was really like, you made me aware of it. And now I'm going to be more conscious of trying to change that.
Well, what did you say the day she looked at you and was like, dang, mom just beat up my dream? And it's not like you were saying she couldn't do it, but you're like, well, did you think about the cost of this? Did you think about this? Did you think about this? And it immediately went to the negative. And you said, well, I'm just being a realist. But that's programming. That's programming that we all have to fight from, that we're learning growing up.
Yeah. And this is something I realized, kind of my parent passed down to me, is that's kind of how they were with me. Anytime I was excited about something, or I'm telling them about something that I'm excited about, it doesn't mean they are, and they would point out all the bad things. And then next thing you know, you're like, you don't believe in your dream now because
Right.
someone else just rained all over it. So I just was like, I need to be better about that. And I need to work on that, because I realize, like, there is conditioning there, and I've got to start changing that and working on
reframing your negative self-talk.
That's like what we're talking about right now, is reframing how we talk to ourselves, because we tend to play into that too. And we have to fight that. I really have to fight it, because my natural tendency is to do that. And I have to really stop myself and be like, okay, don't do that.
Well, if we're all being honest on here, that's everybody's natural tendency, because it's a safety mechanism. It keeps you from being disappointed, or it keeps you from feeling like you failed, or it keeps you from whatever it is. But the reality is, if we want to be mediocre, we can continue to not rock the boat. We can continue to not challenge ourselves. We can continue to not work through these 4 keys. We can continue to do the same thing we've always done, getting the results we've always gotten. If you want different results, you really got to do things differently. Reframing your negative self-talk is huge to flipping that upside down on its head. And I want to give one bonus one before we close out today, because I think this is important. We've talked about it a few times. Again, I'm a military guy. Affirmations for me, I never did affirmations till the last couple of years. And even now, I still got to be intentional to make myself do them. The I am statements. What I find most people do, though, is they will say I am statements for things they believe in. When I do my talk, I do this thing with I am statements, when I go out and speak.
Well, because it's easy to say the things you already believe.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I get everybody to stand to let everybody show everybody they're not alone. They're not isolated. But I have them say, I'm not alone. It's not my fault. I am loved. I am powerful. And I can see people in the crowd that don't say certain ones. So if I'm coming to speak for you, I hope you say it, because I will find you in the crowd, and then we're going to say it 3 or 4 times until you say it, because the belief is derived from what you're actually saying out loud. That's why we can say a lot of things to ourselves. What are you saying out loud? Tell yourself, pick 3 I am statements for yourself. I want you to really do this if you're listening. Pick 3 I am statements for yourself that you don't want to believe right now, but you want to make these things happen, and be really specific on what they are.
Yeah, I shared with you guys on another episode about it, where the last self-talk episode we did, and I told you that Walt made me do it at one point because I was being really down on myself,
Your negative self-talk.
and he was like, I want you to do this with me. And I can't remember. I wish I could remember which affirmation you had me say. I don't know if it was I am powerful or
It was
something like that. Something I really
I'm worthy.
was
No,
struggling.
it was I'm worthy.
It was something I was really struggling to say about myself. And it really shocked me that I felt like I couldn't say it because I didn't believe it. And that's the thing. It's like those affirmations really will make you realize, like, I really didn't believe it about myself. And that's why it was so hard for me to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh my God, like, I just didn't even realize that about myself. And it was very eye opening, like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
I obviously need to do some work
Well,
on.
it was awareness of a blind spot.
Yeah.
That now you knew you could be intentional about doing some work on, or not, and staying in the same space. So you had the choice.
Hey, you guys, I couldn't say I am worthy. I couldn't say that. And it took me quite a few times before I started to
yell it out loud.
And it started really low. And then he was like, say it louder, say it louder. But it's funny because, you will feel funny doing it.
Right.
But you'd be surprised, like, how you feel after you say it, how you really do. It starts transforming how you feel about yourself.
Yes.
And if you keep saying that to yourself, it's just like he said at the beginning. What are we saying to ourselves? I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I always mess up. So if you're constantly repeating that to yourself, what do you think is going to happen? Whereas if you're constantly telling yourself, I am capable, I am strong, I am powerful, guess what? You're going to be. You're going to start showing up as those things because you're saying and repeating that to yourself. And this is the reprogramming we're talking about, is like, we have to start talking to ourselves that way. We have to say it. We have to say it out loud because it's the only way we really take it in.
Feel it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so true. It's so powerful how that works. But it is, because we don't think about that. We're always saying the negative, but if we were saying those positive things to ourselves all the time, we would be so different.
So imagine those results. You take that negative self-talk, you flip it upside down, and you do that for the next 6 months. You commit for the consistent, sustained action. Because you know what? You are deserving. You are beautiful. You are strong. You are a warrior. You are worthy. You are loved. You're all of these things. And you got to feel that about you in order to become the best version of who you're meant to be, in order to maximize your potential. What's waiting for you on the other side of this work that you need to do right now, these 4 keys you need to do right now, will transform your life, your legacy, and everything in between. So take a hold of that. Take a hold of that and just grab a hold of it and don't ever let go of it, because we understand the power of doing that. And we constantly challenge ourselves to step into that greatness that I'm meant for, that Stephanie's meant for, that you're meant for. No more playing. Step into the greatness starting today. So look, guys, I can't wait till next week. We're going to have a couple on here and we're going to talk about some relationships, our favorite.
Yes.
And it's going to be so powerful because we can all learn through the difficulties in each of our relationships how to create the most powerful relationships possible, and what a real partnership that really works together can do for you and your families and your kids. And if you don't have them yet, your future children.
I always think it's exciting to hear, like, I'm excited to talk to another couple and hear how they've gone through their struggles and what they've learned from it, because you know, if you guys have noticed, if you're listening regularly, each guest, there's a lot of things that keep coming up. The same things keep coming up, the same words, a lot of the same actions, a lot of the same lessons. So I want to leave you guys with the 2 words that I'm really really paying attention to, and that is awareness and intentionality. Have awareness and be intentional. Those are my 2 big words that I'm really focusing on, and I believe can help everybody have better self-talk.
And look, guys, go to @Legacy Warrior Podcast on YouTube or @Legacy Warrior Podcast on Instagram. Legit, go tell us the affirmation you're going to start using. Go give me 3 affirmations you're going to start using. Or even better, if you have a word you want to start really making this year about, because we still got a lot of year left.
I want to know what your word for the year is.
Let us know what that word is, man. Help us get fired up. I love it. Help us support you in your journey. And, you know, as always, if you feel like somebody else can benefit from this episode, send it to them. Shoot them in a text. Send in the show link. It's not even about getting an extra subscriber or getting one more person to listen. It's about helping somebody change somebody else's life. And you could be that conduit to really make that happen. So look, guys, until next week, stay in the arena of life, keep fighting, keep taking steps forward, and
leave this world a little bit better than you found it.
See you guys next Tuesday.